Twinkle, twinkle, little star,
He's alive!
Welcome to where the weird ones are.
Every time I speak, I want the truth to come out.
Powerful figures in Hollywood as well as powerful politicians who are in fact not human. They're reptiles or they're lizards or perhaps extraterrestrials.
I don't think it is a human. I think it's a Sasquatch.
Go ahead and run. Run home and cry to mama.
Let's get weird.
Well, what's up, you fucking weirdos? Welcome to another episode of Where the Weird Ones Are. My name is Kevin, but you probably already knew that, and if you didn't, now you do. Today's episode is with Thomas, a.k.a. Paranoid American. Amazing dude. Really enjoyed talking to him. Been hearing him on Heidi's podcast a lot lately, which is the Unfiltered Rise podcast. Should definitely check it out if you haven't. If you're into conspiracies, um, biblical knowledge, and all that kind of stuff. She's super knowledgeable, super smart, and I like her a lot. So, other than that, Merry fucking Christmas. Today is Christmas, and you know it's been a good day. It's been a good day. So this is coming out a little bit later in the day than normal. Um, I'm actually recording on Christmas Day right now, this intro, which I usually normally have recorded the intro and put everything together days prior. But it's been hectic at work and shit, but not that you guys care. Anyways, I switched platforms from Castbox to Spreaker, so um if you listen on Spotify, I mean, you might have to search the show again because there's two shows on Spotify now. So the newer one has all my updated episodes. So the newest episode, which came out yesterday, Conspiracy Tuesday 17 with Drew, Justin, and Riley, also amazing dudes. So I dropped the ball when updating it for Spotify. I just clicked on all the things to put it out from Spreaker, and so probably on every platform that I was already on is doubled other than Apple. Apple's the only one that directed me to go to my actual podcast and update the RSS feed, and I just assumed that it was gonna merge with everything, which was kind of dumb of me. So now that the show has been added to Spotify, I can't put the RSS feed into my Spotify account where I already have all my data and shit, which I guess it'll be all right. I don't because again, I don't care about numbers that much, but the ratings and stuff was up there. So now it's probably going to be a little. I'm pretty much going to have to start from all over again with with all that. So, but oh well. Again, he's amazing dude. We do get political on this episode. I know probably everybody's sick of hearing politics, so I might kind of I'm probably gonna stray a little bit and trying to get back to the meat and potatoes of the podcast, which is, paranormal experiences and stuff. Focus more on that again. Um, Not that I don't like talking about politics and conspiracies. Actually, well, conspiracies aren't always political, but I don't know. This conversation was still fucking amazing, and I'm so happy that Thomas agreed to Come on. He has a card game or like baseball cards, but conspiracy cards, which is fucking dope as fuck. He's a comic book illustrator. He also, I didn't know this, but he formerly was an animator at Disney, which is fucking dope as fuck. I wish I was that creative. Like wish I was that good with like creating stuff like that, because that'd be amazing. That would be a good thing, because then I could make my own fucking comics. I desperately want to make the comic that I've told you all about 100 times. I just don't know if it's ever gonna happen. But yeah, go check out Thomas at paranoidamerican.com. You can get up to date with everything that he's doing in his podcast. Realities Are, I think it's called. Um, so, but yeah. Quick shout out to the sponsor, Flavors of the Forest, raw garlic dust. It's Bigfoot's breath. Um, it's really good. I put it on everything. You're not gonna find anything at the store that is better than this. It's very potent. You're definitely gonna taste it once you put it on some shit. So it's fucking great. Shout out to John Knight, Johnny Nitro on Instagram. Number one for becoming the newest Patreon member, but also winning the raffle. And he's gonna get a T-shirt. He's gonna get protein powder. He's gonna get coffee. He's gonna get the hot sauce and the garlic, which he already loves the garlic, so he's gonna get more. Yes. Anywho, that's pretty much all I have to talk to you guys about. I apologize for anybody listening on Spotify, the change. I also apologize to anybody who listens on Apple because Apple hasn't added it yet. So hopefully within before the week is over, it'll be on Apple. I'm gonna have to delete um the old show from Spotify so that when the show gets when you guys search the show in Spotify, you come to the right one. So, but we're almost to 200 episodes. Pretty interesting. Looking forward to 2025 for sure. So, um, I think the next episode comes out on New Year's Eve or day. I can't remember what day New Year's Eve is on. It's either Wednesday or Tuesday or Wednesday. So, anyways, Merry Christmas, everybody. I hope you're having a fun and safe holiday. I love you all. Thank you for listening. If you like the show, please like, follow, share, subscribe, leave a rating and review. I'd greatly appreciate it. Also, if your catcher doesn't allow you to leave a review, you can leave one on the website, where the weird ones are podcast.com. That is also where you can get the coffee. That is also where you can get the hot sauce. That is also where you can get the merch. Supplements still coming soon. Haven't fucking added them yet, and I keep saying that I'm gonna. Um, but yeah, so uh, if you have any paranormal experiences or conspiracy that you want to talk to, spirituality, you want to talk about mental health and all that shit, you seen a Bigfoot or something, you can contact me at where the weird ones are at gmail.com if you're interested in being featured on the show. Again, I don't have to do video form if you don't want your name and face out there associated with the stories that you have. I know a lot of people tend to think we're crazy when we have these experiences. So, also, if you're in any kind of distress mentally, please dial 988. That's the National Suicide Hotline. Um, you deserve to be here. We want you here. So, please stay another day because you do not understand the immense hole that you are going to leave when you're gone. Um, Taking yourself out only transfers your trauma to somebody else who cares about you. And you don't understand how much you're loved because you are. Promise. I promise. So, oh, I thought the recording just stopped on me for a second. Anyways, let's get into the show with Thomas. Amazing dude, amazing artist, Paranoid American. You can find him on paranoidamerican.com. So let's get into it.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Let's get weird. Let's get weird. Let's get weird. Let's get weird. Weird. Get weird.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode. So happy to have you here. Today I have the Paranoid American. You want to know what? As many times as I heard you on other people's podcasts, I don't think you might not have said it. Because maybe you don't want people to know because you're a shape-shifting lizard. Um, but I don't think I've ever heard you state your actual name.
Oh, it's Thomas. It's not even a secret at all. It's
Okay.
on all my comics. If you get a single comic, you'll see my name plastered all over it. The thing is though
Oh
is
my
I've,
God.
I've got this Paranoid American as my name whenever I go on podcasts, and for the
Yeah.
first year or two, that would be the only thing that it would say. So a guest would come on or someone else would be there and we didn't know each other, and just by habit they would refer to me as Paranoid. They would just call me Paranoid like it was my name, and it kind of stuck, and I didn't correct anyone because I kind of like it. It's great for the branding. So now a lot of people, even people that I know personally that know my name, they still like, yo, what's up, Paranoid? Like they just call me Paranoid like it's my actual name.
Hilarious. That's all. That's pretty awesome. Because yeah, I've like I was telling you before we started recording, so I've heard you on several shows, and I've only heard them refer to you as Paranoid American.
Yeah, I like it.
So
I wouldn't change it. It's almost like being a rapper. Like rappers have
yeah,
these, like weird names.
yeah, you're not wrong there. You're not wrong there. So, speaking of comics, like, how'd you get into that? Because
I
I've
mean,
seen some of your artwork and stuff like that. Because well, I follow you on Instagram, so I see you post um your stuff on there every once in a while, and you have cards too. I'm gonna ask you about those too. But
yeah, that's one of
what?
my newer projects. But like I got in the comics since I was old enough to even know what a comic was. And my next door neighbor when I was growing up in upstate New York, he was my best friend, and he was absolutely phenomenal at drawing as good as you could be for like a 5 or 6 year old. But like as soon as I saw how good he could draw and how good I could draw, or I thought I could compared to him, I was just like, we should work on a comic together. And then after we moved, my parents moved me to Florida. But every single time I would meet a new friend, it was like, we should make a comic together. Like, that was always my thing, is let's make a comic together. And I guess that I never really shook that. Like that's still the way that I meet another new friend, and like that's when my way of bonding and like developing a closer relationship is like, let's make a comic together.
That's awesome. That's awesome. How much? So, real quick, I have to ask because um I've been trying to make a comic for like ever. Um, how much do you charge to have to help somebody create their own project?
I haven't really been hired per se to like do that.
Oh,
Usually it'll be, if it's a collaborative effort, what usually my terms are that whoever I'm collaborating with has to foot the bill of all the artwork. Now, if that means they can only afford black and white, a tiny little mini comic that's 8 pages long, so be it. If it means they can afford a 24-page full color standard comic with like 8 different variant covers, then so be that. But that's usually how I operate. And then once a collaboration is done and we sell it, we just kind of split 50-50. Or
okay.
there's other variations, but that's kind of like the general way I go about it. And otherwise, it's usually when someone reaches out to me like, "Hey, can you help illustrate or can you help write?" I'll usually just play matchmaker. I'll connect them with an artist that seems to be in their budget and in their wheelhouse, and I just remove myself from that process unless someone really wants me to be, art manager or like creative director and project management. And then it's usually something like $50 a page is like a standard rate that I would do.
Yeah, yeah. That's it. So yeah, because that's about what actually I think that's exactly what my so I had I had a designer, but because we started working on a podcast, comic, and we got, I want to say, 4 or 5 pages in, and I don't know, she just had time management issues, I guess, with like between her regular
First
job and
first
all
time
this stuff.
comic?
Yeah, I think so, maybe. She says she's done comics for herself 100 times, but she said that it would be so easy that she could knock it right out of the park, and then it like, I don't know, it seemed
Red
like it
flag
was
number
taking
1. Yeah, because
forever. Yeah.
there's no part of working on a comic that is easy. In fact, a lot of the professionals that I've been following since I've been growing up, still take a very long time to put out product, especially if it's something that you really care about and you don't mind bumping things like a week here and a week there to refine things and get things just perfect. Because otherwise, unless you're paying upwards of 300, 500, $800 a page, usually you're working with a different realm of like a straight up Image, Marvel, DC professional comic illustrator that knows how to pump out 2 pages a day and get an entire book done within 2, 3, 4 weeks sometimes. Otherwise, if you're paying a little bit less than that and you're working with someone that's got a regular job and or like they're not just completely 100% full-time comic artist, now the rate goes down, but you might take 8 months optimistically sometimes to get one standard length book out. So it's a really weird world, and you don't know this stuff. There's not a guide anywhere, and there's not a lot of people that'll be really honest and frank about that. Most artists will, even in their own head, it's like, oh yeah, I can knock out a page a day. That's not a problem. But then your cat gets sick, and you got to bring your cat to the vet, and then you got to pick up another job in order to pay that bill off because the comic wants to pay. So like life happens, and the thing
Mm-hmm.
with comic books, which is so different than hiring someone to make you a logo or editing a video, something that they could feasibly knock out in a weekend or two. Like a comic book, even if you're fast at it, it's going to require you to dedicate at least 1 to 2 months of your life. More realistically, it's like 6 or 7 months. A lot of things can happen in a person's life over the course of 6 or 7 months, right? So entering
Absolutely.
a comic book is very much like starting a relationship. I mean, there's relationships that a lot of people have been through that only lasted 3 or 4 months, and that's not an insignificant amount of time, right? So working on a
Right.
comic really is there's like a dating or a courting process that's sort of involved, and if the date goes well, you go out on another date. It's sort of like a really good analogy.
That's a fantastic analogy because that's pretty much how it was kind of went for her and I was, so she had been on the show because she was also a medium. So she also did medium stuff. And that's how one of the ways she made money. Then she had her regular job, and then she also did logos and stuff like that. And so, we started talking every day. She did a bunch of design, like t-shirt designs and stuff for me before we even started the comic book process. But then she just was like, so I had given her a couple, I think I had like 2 or 3 designs for t-shirts at one point, and, with her, I never had an expectation. I was like, whenever we get this done, whenever you get it, it's not like never was like, I need this fucking tomorrow or anything like that. I was like, hey, here's an idea. If you can do it, cool. If you can't, whatever. And then whenever you get it is when you get it. Um, and then I think we were also trying to like get ideas from AI because there was some Catalyst AI thing on
Right.
Wait, what?
Well, like using AI usually to like help jumpstart ideas.
Yeah, like kind of like get like the idea of what the like it within the comic itself of because I can't freaking remember what the program was called, but I was playing around with it just to see if I could like make something myself, just to try and like get a storyboard for her, so it would like kind of like kickstart, and then yeah, she just was like, I can't. She's like, I'm gonna have to like I can't do this anymore, and I was like, oh fuck.
Honestly, it's not bad that you were only said I think like 4 or 5 pages in because I've had that happen to me when an artist was like 18 pages into like a 30-page book, and that's a huge investment of time and money on all accounts,
Yeah,
and
that's true.
it's never a great outcome ever. You know what I mean? So at least it happened early on, and she
That's
was able
true.
to identify that.
That's true. Uh, um, I'll have to edit this out, but what the thing that she said was, I'm gonna have to cut ties with you, uh, to, uh, to save my marriage, was basically the words that were said. I was like, what the hell? So
Well, that sounds
I
way
th
more involved than like
yeah,
an artistic issue.
yeah, I think husband didn't like her talking to me. I think that's what it was, you know. But um,
Usually,
any,
if you go with a professional comic book artist, they will, and one that has like sort of a record. You know, here's
mhm,
the books that I've done. Here's how long they took. Reach out to the creators or the writers that they work with, and just check out. It's you know, it's like any other job application. And once you find the right person, yeah, like hold on to them dearly if they actually deliver, because
yes.
it's not like you would assume that every single person out there that's charging money is some kind of professional. It's not always how it works, though. Some people
Mhm.
have just learned how to do this over time, and they know that they can charge money for it, and they've got the skill. But it doesn't always mean that they care about deadlines or communication or even receiving feedback. Like when you look at someone's portfolio and you see some amazing artwork, especially if it's from a comic, you do got to keep in mind too that a comic book has typically it's got about 20 pages. Each page has got roughly 5 panels on it. So every single book has got a minimum of 100 panels. And usually when you're looking through a portfolio, you'll see like 2 panels per book, 3 panels. So they can cherry pick the best looking of all of them too. So that's another thing that is a huge pitfall is you'll see something on a portfolio that's highly detailed and then it's got like the exact aesthetic you're looking for. But then you start a book and by the time you get to page 13 or 14 and they've been spending a few months on it, like those details can slip a little bit and some pages
Mhm.
get rushed more than others. Like it's just all just human stuff that no one really takes into account when they start working on a comic, that this is another human being that you're working with that has a life.
Right. 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 Man, I've always so I'll show you real quick. I think this is probably the best thing that I have. So she made me labels for my hot sauce. I'll just give you like a if you can see it anyway. It's like a picture that she drew.
I like that a lot, man.
So it's Bigfoot. Well, the face of Bigfoot anyway. And it's actually I like so when she did that, man, I was like, holy fuck, this is dope. Like it's really cool. And I wish I could show you the pictures that I had from the pages, but she did two different sets. One kind of looked like a Japanese anime, and then the other one looked a little more like the style that that I wanted. But I'm totally good with black and white. But one day we'll see. I've had a couple people talk to me about being an artist for it, so we'll see someday.
Huge
But
investment, yeah. Like just consider that you're not just putting a lot of money into whoever you hire to do it, but a lot of time. Like it's a straight up
oh yeah,
relationship.
for sure, for sure. And then I also wanted to ask you about your card game. You created a what is it, a conspiracy card game?
It's a little mixture. So there's um some some cards in it that are based on X-Men cards. that I grew up with these X-Men cards in the 90s. My absolute favorite design. I sort of made like an homage to that one. And those cards have stats on the back of them. And there is a way to gamify them, but I haven't released all of them yet. So it's not something that you could play. But all I got to do is release instruction guide that just says, and here's how you play the game. If you've already got them, here's how you play them. But also a few months ago, I introduced some like cool little bonus cards in the packs that are parody baseball cards with conspiracy theorists on them. So I've got like an Alex Jones card and a William Cooper card and a whole bunch of MK Ultra scientists like Dr. Ewan Cameron and Sidney Gottlieb and Timothy McVeigh and just a whole bunch of different cards, but they're all posed as baseball players and they got jerseys that say paranoid, and some of them have a hat that'll say CIA or NSA or something like that. And then the backs of them are all, stats. Like they look exactly like old school Fleer and Donruss and Tops and Upper Deck cards that, again, I grew up with, and I just fell in love with those aesthetics. They're burned into my memory. So I just kind of combined the information that can relate to the most, which is, Bill Jones and Alex Hicks combination, and just turned those into baseball cards. And now I add those into these packs too. So, and the intent is so that someone that's getting it for like the conspiracy card collection to support Paranoid American, well, now you also get these cool kind of collector things that other people would be able to identify with, even if they don't know who the hell I am, and then vice versa. People that buy a pack because they want that Bill Hicks card or they want that, like William Cooper card. Well, I'll slip in some of the Paranoid American comic cards too, so now they can kind of get a sampling of what I've got to offer outside of just this parody thing. So it's been a pretty wild success, and I plan to keep expanding on that. I'm hoping that next in 2025, I'll add at least another 40 or 50 cards to the set, and once I've got around 165, I think, around 165 total designs, I really want to do a whole crowdfunding campaign to make them legit, like foil wrapped and booster packs and all like the full nine. But I've got
man.
huge dreams.
That's very ambiguous of you, man. That's the fucking dope, though. Do you get those cards right on paranoidamerican.com?
Yeah, I just got them right on the main website for now, and you can also just go to conspiracycards.com and it'll bring you right to them.
Nice,
Eventually,
man.
that'll be its own website that's got way more info, but I'm only one man.
We can only do so much.
Seriously.
I started freaking 3 companies, and they're all on one website. I don't know if that's a good idea. So I make my own hot sauce. I have a coffee company, which I had another person create the art on
I
that.
love that too.
And then I don't have any down here with me, but I started a supplement company too. And it's all going to be on my podcast website. And I don't know if that's 100% a good idea, but at
I would
least
do
for
both,
now.
man. I would have. I mean, when you have the time, let's say that you had infinite time and resources in the
Right.
ideal world, yeah, you'd have a full blown website for each individual thing, and then on your podcast, you'd likely just link to those different things. But this way, if someone really was interested and they just came across your hot sauce like coincidentally, it's not like they go to a podcast website and then order a podcaster's hot sauce. They're ordering hot sauce from a hot sauce site, and oh, cool, this hot sauce apparently has a podcast. You know what I mean? Like it has
Yeah.
even though you're doing the exact same thing, you put up a slightly different perception of it.
Yeah. That's a good point. That's a good point. Oh man. Yeah. Sometimes I feel like my ambition is bigger than myself. You know what I mean? Like I'm reaching in all these places. Um,
Yeah, the trick though is to just take one bite at a time and chew it and swallow it. You know what I
it's
mean? Like
true. That's
at
true.
a certain point, and a lot of the time you'll find a few bites in, you're like, okay, actually I don't like this. Like this isn't my particular taste, and that'll let you focus on the other things that you knew to want to do. But if you fall in love with all of them, then it might just take you a while to get through them all. But there's no reason to stop. It's just always constant progress, bit by bit.
Yes, yes. I believe that. Um, anyway, so another question that I wanted to ask you, because this is a paranormal based podcast, have you ever had an experience with anything that you could chalk up to being paranormal?
No aliens or Bigfoot encounters or anything like that. But I have personally seen some like I've seen bibliomancy work, which is a really odd specific thing. And I don't know if it's as like interesting if I was like, yeah, man, I got, like like aliens came and probed me and then dropped me off with Bigfoot. Like that, I've heard those stories before and they're phenomenal. My story was just a time when I would think of a word and open up the dictionary and open it directly to that word like a few times in a row until I was like,
Wow.
okay, I don't know if I just want to stop while I'm ahead and just remember this as like a unique experience to like destroy it and then not do it like a whole bunch after that. But and that's just one example of many where something feels like it's so coincidental that I've almost developed like a rule in the back of my head that how many coincidences are you willing to accept until you realize that there's almost a design at play. So I've had a lot of different encounters that were kind of like that, where just coincidence after coincidence happened. But yeah, it's. I wish I had seen a ghost. I wish I have seen a UFO or a Bigfoot. I haven't really seen any of those, and the ones that maybe I could have seen, I would just blame it on psychedelics.
That's what I would blame it on too. If I didn't see half the shit that I saw and I was very enthralled with the psychedelics, I definitely would say that shit too. Um, there's so many people that I know, like a lot of my friends, they're like, that's crazy. Were you on something when you saw this? And I'm like, no, I wasn't. I was a fucking 9-year-old kid or something like that. You know what I mean? But a lot of people I know, they think that you have to be on drugs in order to see something or a psychedelic. Because I guess technically a mushroom, it technically is not a drug. It's a plant. Well, it's a fungi. Um,
Yeah, it
but
is.
it's a yeah, it is. I've done I've I've the only thing that's done for I haven't hallucinated. I've only seen things brighter. Like and everything seems cooler, like mellow, you know what I mean? Like I don't know how to explain it. I mean, I'm sure you know a little bit more about it, but like um when I every time that I've ever eaten any, everything's just more vivid and looks alive. Like everything looks like it might have a soul to me, if that makes any kind of sense.
Yeah, I'm not going to advocate for anything one way or the other, but general rule of thumb, if you just keep eating more, eventually you'll see something.
Okay. All right. I had a gentleman. I don't know if you've ever had the chance to have a conversation with this guy, but his name's Adam Butler. And he wrote a book called DMT Field Guide. So like he has recipes in there, his experience, he does and his sexual experience and how it's improved his sex life between him and his partner and stuff like that. And he's an interesting person to talk to about that stuff. Um, he's like I blast off like 2, 3, 5 times a day, and I'm just like holy shit. Like he's like it's every day. I do it every day, and la la la. And I couldn't
Living the
imagine
dream.
constantly. Yeah, I know. I was like I couldn't imagine constantly being there. I saw a video the other day. This guy asked this woman, he's like, "What's the hardest substance you've ever taken?" And she goes, sobriety." And he's like, "What?" And she's like, "'Cause reality's fucked up." And I was like, "Oh, well,
Maybe
maybe
she's
that's
never
why."
done salvia. That's what that sounds like.
Oh man, I've heard so many salvia stories. Have you heard the story about the guy that took it and then frickin' thought he had an entire like 5-year life with like a whole nother like family and stuff and has like PTSD when he came back? or something
I
like that.
haven't heard that particular one, but I've heard hundreds of salvia stories that sound very similar to that.
Oh man. Yeah. He like this what so he like um had this whole entire life and then he got woken up and he had pissed and shit himself and his wife is like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" And he's like, "You're like he was so confused because he thought he was married to somebody else with like 3 children and stuff like that." And so yeah, that I don't know if I would ever based
I would
off of
say
those
that's
stories.
strong. Salvia is probably stronger than sobriety. I would just go out on a limb and say that.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, by the story, I've never heard a story that wasn't crazy on Salvia, to be honest with you. So I wouldn't. I don't know if I would ever bring myself to do that. So I mean, to each his own. It's not maybe not for me, but for anybody listening, if you've done it or you
I
want to
loved
do
it.
it.
I absolutely adored salvia while it was free, like easy to get and legal to get. And if I was in a state where I could just go to a head shop and grab some and not have to worry about any legal repercussions, like I'd probably still be all over it. But it's not legal in Florida anymore.
Oh, okay. So I'm unfamiliar. I'm like 100% ignorant on salvia. Like,
I
do
would
you
just say it's
smoke it?
not
Do you
fun.
eat it?
If you're looking for fun, don't do it. You can eat it. Yeah, a lot of the traditional way is that you would just get a bunch of leaves and chew them up and stick them under your lip like it was chew. And
Oh,
just
wow.
over the course of 20, 40 minutes, it would just sublingually get into your bloodstream. And that's the most traditional way of doing it. But there's also all sorts of extracts where people almost like, like concentrates and they'll just like vaporize or they'll smoke a concentrate. That's the two main ways to do it.
Oh, okay.
So
All
it can
right.
be really mild if you do the sublingual thing and just chew up leaf. They taste horrible. It tastes like rubber that stings. Like, that's the flavor of it. It's like a horrible taste.
Oh,
Uh,
gross. Like
yeah,
kratom. Kratom's fucking disgusting.
it's worse than kratom. It is worse because kratom
Oh,
just
shit.
doesn't taste good, but like
Mm-hmm.
salvia actually has something like that may at least me that like repulses me. Not just a bad taste, but something where it's like, oh, this I wouldn't say stinging, but it's like your body's like, get this out of here.
Oh, man. Wow. Because I fucking, dude, I drank some water with some kratom on a few times when I was doing tree work to like because my buddy's like, yeah, it's like a pre-workout. Just drink it and you'll like fucking cut 1 million trees down in one day. And I drank it a few times and it does give you a pretty good burst of energy. But god damn, dude, do I hate like after the first time because the first time I drank it I was like, "Oh," and then I drank it and I was like, "Oh, what the fuck?" So now every time after that, like I just stare at it for a good 5 minutes. I'm like, I'm not looking forward to drinking this.
Well,
But
what's crazy is that kratom and salvia are somewhat related, and they both to get all sciencey, but I believe they both affect the kappa opioid receptors, which is
yeah.
unique out of any other drug. But they also have this thing called reverse tolerance, so that the more you do it, the less you have to take of it. So a lot of people, when they start taking kratom, they have to take a whole bunch or like a decent amount to feel the effects. But after you've felt the effects 5 or 6 times, you can like half as much as you're taking down to the point where you just take a fraction of what you needed the first time and it'll get you to the same spot. It's a really weird drug that no other drugs really seem to work this way with this reverse tolerance.
That's interesting. That is super interesting. I didn't know that. Well, the
Yeah,
more
and
you know,
I don't even know
you
the
learn.
explanation for it, but it's almost like if you try and find your way around like a new neighborhood, like after 5 or 6 times, you start to get a lay of the land. It almost seems that that's how salvia and kratom operate. That once your body understands, like, oh, okay, this thing goes here and this goes here, and here's how you interpret this feeling, and it kind of gets the idea. It's almost like you're practicing. It's almost like you're working out, you know?
That's pretty cool. Um, but so what are you brought up earlier aliens and Bigfoot. Do you have at least thoughts on it, even though you haven't had seen anything?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I want both of those to exist a lot. Like I would prefer that all of those exist. I'm on the fence on everything. Although when it comes to I'll start with Bigfoot because when it comes to Bigfoot, I know enough people that I fully trust their word, and that, like, without even mentioning names, but I know like a lot of people that have made very specific claims about Bigfoot that I don't question because I don't question anything else they've ever told me. Like they don't go off on stories or embellish things. And one of the strongest points is that I've got a few friends that have sort of told me this in confidence, like don't tell anyone else. That they weren't trying to tell a story at a campfire. It was just
Mhm.
like, hey man, like out of all the people I know, you're the one that I can talk to about this. So my ears are open. So I absolutely am open to the concept of Bigfoot in so many different ways. So that one I'm on. The aliens I feel less receptive to just because of how much they're pushed and how specific some of the claims are and how well they match just TV and movies and government propaganda. So I would tend to, in my very skeptical mind, which is makes it surprising to me even that I'm so open to Bigfoot, but it's because of how much I trust the people that have told me about it. When it comes to aliens, there's just way more people that I don't trust as much that seem to have the most like over the top claims on this. I mean, even when I was in the Air Force, and I was working with people that were like, I was a guard in this top secret base, and I saw aliens all the time. Like I heard it from everyone, but like it's just too much. Like I almost feel like I'm left out. Maybe I'm just jealous. It's like, how come I haven't seen them yet? I've done all the things you've done. I've worked the same jobs, but yeah. So maybe until I see one for myself. But even then, I don't even know if I would trust my eyes at that point. Like maybe that was just a flashback. That was just like a salvia or like an LSD flashback from when I was younger. Like I wouldn't know how to even trust it.
Right, right. So even like the government coming out on the news and
It would make me
and being
believe it
like,
even
"Hey,
less.
man."
I would believe it even
Uh,
less if the government came out and started telling it, because I feel that whenever the government pushes some big news story, it's to shadow another even bigger news story. Like I'm absolutely convinced of that dynamic.
yeah. Well, because they just came out, what, 2 weeks ago saying that aliens come from the ocean, I think. Right? Or am I incorrect? I could be incorrect. No, yeah, no, that's what they said. And I don't know if it's the actual government, but they had a disclosure um court thing, like a whistleblower or some shit like that, where they're talking about aliens coming out of the ocean. And I was like, General Byrd was right, man, this whole entire time.
See that there's an example of like I would find it hard to question some of those claims by Admiral Byrd because
Right.
of all the other things that he had said previous to that and his credentials. This the same it would be the exact same thing as me questioning the demolition experts that all came together and questioned 9/11, or the Air Force general demolition expert that questioned the Oklahoma City bombing and had all these reports on like how it was infeasible, how the official record would stand to exist. So maybe I have an inherent bias. If someone's like, "Hey, the government's lying," like I'll be like, "Okay, I believe you." You know what I mean? But when the government comes out and they're like, "No, no, trust us, we're not lying," I definitely don't have that same bias. Like I automatically distrust anything that they put out just because so much has been proven to be propaganda, and there's really no benefit in making these disclosures unless it's to distract or shape some kind of narrative.
Mm, mm.
Like the
That
government rarely just altruistically is like, "Hey, here's some information that you guys didn't have. Here you go. Here's some new stuff." Like why are you deciding to say that instead of a million other things?
Yeah, yeah. One of the things that always blows my mind is like these random stories about anything, like the disclosure and aliens and stuff like that, when there's literally like 800,000 children missing every year. You know what I mean? Like that bothers me a lot that kids missing aren't isn't like a top priority in any journalists and any kind of journalism, it seems like. I mean, granted, they do talk about missing people, they do talk about missing kids. There's Amber Alerts and all that shit, but I just don't understand why it's not more of a focus because it is a problem. It's a problem in every country, but in the US, it is a huge problem. There's a shit ton of kids missing every year. And I think
Well, it's
only
usually not the kids of like CEOs and politicians,
right,
right? It's usually,
right,
and
right,
I think therein lies the rub, is that often the kids missing come from troubled homes or come from situations that there's almost no benefit to, in a horrible way, right? But there's like no benefit to the police force to just keep helping out the poor people. Like they would rather
right.
send their people to the bank or to, you know, the high end part of town or the politicians area to make sure that things stay copacetic, because all they can expect from a poor area is maybe their support. But at this point, how much do the police give a shit about how much the local community cares about them? They don't. They care about how the politicians and the funders and the and those are the ones that if their kid goes missing, you're damn right there'll be a news article. You're damn right the cops will be out looking for him, even if it's just like upper blue collar, you know what I mean? But it's typically those kids that go missing are not from that sort of demographic. And this is not something new. It's been forever. Even when they first started putting kids' faces on the side of milk cartons in the
Mhm.
80s, right?
Yep.
Johnny Ghosh was one of the very first people that had his face on the side of one of those. The second your face is on the side of a milk carton, there's like a 0% chance that you're ever being found. And it's kind of a sad issue, and I think that it gets avoided just because of how prevalent it is. If every if every single cop station started focusing on like, okay, and here's how many kids are missing, and here's all of the really hard hitting facts, it would be so depressing, and it would prompt people to demand a change. But for that reason, I don't think that it's going to get priority.
Yeah. Yeah, just it mainly bothers me because um, you know, I as a conspiracy theorist, you get into these theories um of like government officials, these higher ups, people in Hollywood and stuff having children that are unaccounted for. Like they like obviously the Epstein shit, but all those kids, as far as I know, were are still alive, that I know of. Not saying that anything more nefarious has happened, but um, and then you get like so Pizzagate. I believe Pizzagate. I think that is probably a real thing, especially the weird shit in the emails and stuff like that. So like when I start getting into these kind of like these theories and the evidence for them, it like starts like bothering me when I look at the statistics of actual missing kids. And I think that's a big reason why the border has been open for the last 4 years too, is for these kids because they're talking about like astronomical numbers of kids being separated from their families and then never seen again as they're
Well,
coming
the
across.
border is one aspect of it. There's so many other avenues. Livestock transport. Sometimes if there's companies or like huge conglomerates that are or even organizations like PETA or like these animal saving sort of organizations, they have these sort of special agreements where they can just have trains or huge trucks filled with livestock that don't go through the exact same checkpoints that you would if like you're taking your family across the border to Canada or to Mexico or any country. There's also all sorts of high end restaurant ingredients, like someone's sending some special chocolate from Italy and it can't be opened in transit and inspected because that'll ruin it. The second it touches like it has to go directly to the restaurant and they have to open it up and use it within a certain amount of time. So there's all sorts of waivers and special rules for different types of things that are being delivered. Livestock and high-end ingredients are just two examples of countless ones, right? But that's
Huh.
also ways that you could potentially be, trafficking human beings across, the oceans, across borders, all types of reasons. So you wouldn't just have to smuggle them in through the southern border. There's so many ways that you could go about it. And honestly, most of the time, if you just get them on a private jet, if you just get, like an Epstein, like Lady Express, you can
Mhm.
bypass all of that checkpoint stuff entirely.
Wow. I did not know that shit.
Yeah, I mean,
The
if
more
you've
you
got a private pad and you can take off and land elsewhere, as long as no one stops you and forces you to give a full count of, like you're not going to be flying into a commercial airport. You're not going to at like Atlanta or something and checking in baggage or anything. So there's so many ways. Boats even easier. You can stack how many people in a boat and send it
Yeah,
across
that's
any
true.
of these oceans. And as long as you can dock it in a port where no one asks any questions, like that's thousands of people that you could be bringing in or out at any given time.
Yeah. That makes me think of Kenneth Copeland when he had his private jet, you know what I mean? Like that, because that guy looks like a freaking vampire if I ever seen a real one, you know what I mean? Like
Well, and also
insane.
Ghislaine Maxwell, right? Jeffrey Epstein's,
Yes.
they say right hand, but she might have actually been the mastermind and he was the right hand. Who knows? We'll never really know the answer to that, but she was the head of all sorts of initiatives for cleaning up the ocean and submarine research. And I mean,
Yes, that's
if you've
right.
got access to intelligence agencies and to naval resources, then that would be the perfect way to traffic anything and all that you wanted.
Yeah. I
And then if you've got
definitely
your own island, I mean, who do you think is checking, passports when a ship or a plane shows up to Epstein Island? They're just like getting the house, they're on the Louvre.
Yeah. Yeah. Shit, now I forgot what the fuck I was gonna say. Oh yeah, I always had felt like fucking Ghislaine Maxwell was 10 times more intelligent than Jeffrey. Like I always thought that she was pulling the strings, that she was basically, what I think was happening was that she was bringing when they first started, she was bringing these girls to set him up, kind of like he was doing with Bill Clinton and George Bush when he got those pictures of them in dresses and shit. You know what I mean? Like just like having something to blackmail him with so that he stays in line and does what she wants him to do. That's what I think. That's what I've always thought this entire time. Especially that like the even with the documentary that they put out, which I think there was a lot of stuff that was left out that could have been put into that documentary. And I think they were just more focused on teenage girls that um got taken advantage of, essentially.
Yeah, that the documentary also did not even try and name any of the other people that were in the black book or make any, because the names they'd be dropping are huge names.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I've always thought that they had released the flight logs, but I guess they never have. And I think every time I've seen it, they were fake. So they were all just made up. And everybody's like, "Oh, Trump's on the list. Trump's on the flight logs. Trump's on the flight logs." And I'm just like, "Okay." But now that it's fake,
Well,
I'm like,
he has all sorts of flight logs, but many of the flight logs were public knowledge anyway. These are the ones where it was like um
mm,
Kevin
oh, okay.
Spacey and Chris Tucker and Bill Clinton, but a lot of those were not flight logs going to his island. A lot of them were flight logs of his personal jet, but I mean, ironically, a lot of them were going to Haiti and doing like all sorts of other
Yes. Yes.
like fundraising expeditions. But as far as I know, there's not a full catalog of like, here's every person that's ever gotten on a plane and got off at Epstein Island and spent a few days there and went back home. And that's the information that hasn't really been released. But even more than that is like, we don't even know when the island got raided and the FBI swarmed in and they were all coming out with like computers and VCRs and security equipment. Like, what was on that stuff? And
Right.
that was it. That's the end of it.
Right. Do you think Diddy was on that had gone to that island and spent time with Jeffrey? Because I don't know if I've ever seen anything on that.
I think Diddy was just the BET to Jeffrey Epstein's MTV. Like
Okay.
it's the same thing, just it was catering to a different demographic, and it was the exact same method of control, just blackmail. That's all it is.
I gotcha. I gotcha. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's what I think, like the whole intent of like Bohemian Grove and obviously Epstein Island and then all the shit Diddy was doing. Like I think that was Did you know fucking Jay-Z stabbed a guy in 1996? He stabbed like a producer or something like that too. And I don't think he got fucking in any kind of trouble for it.
Yeah, I mean he's a moneymaker, man, and people that make other people money tend to stay out of jail.
Uh,
I mean,
so
did
I
you know
do this.
Dick Cheney shot a dude in the face, and then the guy apologized to him?
Yeah, yeah, and then not that well, not to get well, I guess it is a little political, but um I've already kind of gone down politics, but I'm trying to stop uh stop talking about politics just because I feel like everybody's probably like rolling their eyes every time it gets brought up at this point because everybody's talking about it. But I just find it really interesting that Dick Cheney endorsed Kamala Harris and the side that's, all love and inclusion and stuff like that are like, yes, the warmonger is on our side. You know what I mean? Like that was really interesting. I was like, what in the world? And
I
then
think there's almost proof in this with Dick Cheney endorsing Kamala Harris, but that the political dynasties of the Biden family and the Clinton family and the Bush family are more aligned with each other, even being on, perceivably different sides of the aisle. They still have way more in common than Trump has with any of them. So it's almost like the enemy of my enemy is my friend. You see
yeah,
the Bush, the Biden, and the Clinton dynasties all collaborating together to try and take down this other this new money dynasty that's trying to take on the old money dynasties.
yeah, it's man, it's been fucking super interesting. And I totally did not mean to go like completely to the left field of this. I had a whole other like thing that I wanted to get into with you, but we can continue since we're already on here on this topic. We can continue going down this rabbit hole a little bit. I don't want to take up too much of your time. So, but yeah, so with all of that, man, I f- there's something interesting when everybody in politics is against one person, you know what I mean? Like it was almost weird because it almost seemed like a lot of Republicans were against Trump, you know what I mean?
Of course, I
And
mean he started as a Democrat, like
right,
the whole
true,
party was essentially started as Democrats.
true, that's true. Um, and both sides have flip-flopped so many fucking times. Like this is what I've been saying this whole entire time for this whole couple of years now is, um, if I had to label myself, I would say I'm conservative, but I'm not Republican. Like I don't align myself with the Republican Party, but I do have conservative values, right? But now I'm like, I don't even know what politician technically is conservative anymore. I don't know what
I don't think
politician
you
is
could get that far. You wouldn't even be able to get past like a regional election if you were a true conservative most of the time.
true. You're not, I don't think you're wrong in that. Um, so what do you what do you think about Biden pardoning fucking Hunter?
I mean, of course. Of course he was gonna do that. I mean, Trump was pardoning rappers, so why wouldn't Joe Biden pardon his own freaking son? But I think it has a lot less to do with Hunter and a lot more to do with Joe and the rest of the
Yes.
Biden family, because by pardoning Hunter, that means that any like real big legal investigations that rely on his laptop or his involvement in any way are going to be a lot harder to prosecute and a lot harder to do anything with. So now that I almost feel that they intentionally used Hunter Biden as a linchpin in all these deals and had him be the go-between guy because he was such a fucking train wreck. He was this crackhead that was like maxing out credit cards on whores and OnlyFans like every single day of his life and just fucking up left and right, getting laptops stolen and losing guns. And so that by making him the linchpin of a lot of these deals, that you can sort of have him cast as this unreliable narrator. So even if he did go into a court and they start asking him questions to testify and stuff, it would just be like, Your Honor, clearly, this guy was on a crack binge for 72 hours. We can't really take anything that he says. So it was so convenient for him to be the fall guy. And now to pardon the fall guy, it just adds like these two extra barriers that make it that much harder to investigate anything related to it. So it's kind of genius in a way.
Yeah, yeah. When it happened, because a couple guys that I work with were talking about it, I think yesterday morning or maybe this morning. And I was just like, honestly, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, he's been talking this whole entire for like what, 3 years now about he was never gonna pardon Hunter, and all the other
Do you think
Democrats
that
are like,
Joe honestly even remembers something that he said 3 years ago? I don't even think it's possible to remember
probably
that,
not.
right? So
Probably
even
not.
now, I almost wouldn't even hold it against him. Be like, look, even if you promised that, your dementia doesn't allow you to remember that you promised it. So technically, you're not even breaking a promise.
That's true. That's true. But with all of the rest of them being like, he's not gonna do it, and then Jill being like, I think he should have to be forced to be, be punished by the law just like anybody else. And then he's pardoned, and she's like, of course I support the pardoning of my son.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, none of that surprises me though. It's easy
No, true.
to talk the big game and then hope that it just goes away, but then for people to keep pursuing it, it's like, okay, yeah, there's a pardon now.
Yeah, it just makes the speculation more true. Like, because I forget her name, but the spokesperson for the White House, the black lady with she's wicked cute with the like short curly hair.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. I can't remember her name off the
Yeah,
top of my head.
yeah, there was a TikTok video of just of clips of her repeatedly saying that the president isn't gonna pardon Hunter. So they were like asking if Hunter was going to be pardoned like almost every time they had this little like speech, this little meeting that they do I think they do it every day at this point. It almost
Well,
seems like
another
it, or
thing that this does is that I think the pardon was for pretty much anything that he was involved in the last 10 years. Like it's just an
10
absolute
years,
clean slate.
yes.
10 years,
Yeah.
clean slate, which encompasses pretty much anything that would have been relevant. But what would happen if it actually did go to trial, even if he was found, innocent of all of this? The information would have been in the nightly news cycle for months and months, maybe even years, and they would be forced to talk about all of the whores and all of the crack. And here's another picture with Hunter naked smoking crack in the bathroom. Like, how many pictures did he take of himself smoking crack in the bathroom naked? It was more than 10. It was a lot more than 10, right? So you would see a new one every and by pardoning it now, that doesn't have to happen because it's not going to be any sort of legal news. And on top of that, you can already see people in comment sections and on social media and even in newscasters when it comes up. It's almost like, oh, get over it, he was pardoned, like it's old news now, as opposed
Yeah.
to, no, actually this is fairly salacious stuff. Like this guy was sleeping with his brother's widow, her sister, their daughter, like his niece. And not only that, but the Bo's widow, right, Hunter's brother's widow, as they were having this affair, she's going out and she's hiring male prostitutes and she's having Hunter get her crack, and Hunter's having crack sent to him across the country by guys that he's like meeting in dark alleys. And like it's such a wild story. I can't believe that people wouldn't want to talk about this, but it's because it's not profitable. You're not gonna like maybe you can still put a Coca-Cola commercial and a Hyundai commercial afterwards, but like you might be out of a job or you might be dead. That's probably the real thing. Is like, man, this would sell so many cars and get so high ratings if we could air this, but also we might all end up dead.
Also, Thomas is not suicidal. I should say that right now. Um, and he had like ties to pedophilia too, didn't he? Like that's what one of the things that the laptop was supposedly to have housed is evidence of on that as well.
Well, I believe that was still tied directly to his niece, like this underage diary and like all of that gets swept under the rug now because he was pardoned. Come on, get over it. Like you're being so political right now. It's like, wait, isn't this actually somewhat
Fucking A.
important? We're literally talking about the son of the president, who the president pardoned, but yeah, there's no legal repercussion to it, and it's I've already seen that the narrative has been cast this way, and it doesn't seem that it's going to change. That if you're still talking about the laptop or Barisma or the gun that he lost or the whole niece thing, if you're talking about any of that, it's because you watch too much Fox News. The end.
Oh yeah, yeah, of course, of course. And Fox News isn't freaking. I don't know. Fox News is kind of stupid too. They're all stupid, I think. I don't. When I see clips of it, it's almost like because there was one point I think earlier this year where I had seen a clip on Fox. I can't remember what the fuck they were covering, but I was like, when did Fox News switch from being right to left? Because they seemed more lefty than anything. Because
Trump, I mean, that
for
happened
the
with Trump
longest,
too, man. As soon as Trump ran the first time, you saw Fox News pundits like siding with the Bushes all of a sudden. Like, what? Wait, what?
yeah,
Where did
you're
this come
right.
from? But and the Bushes, not as a Republican way, but as like in an anti-Trump way. And then they
Yeah.
start acting like, oh, we're fair and balanced. We're gonna lean into that balanced part now. We've always been this balanced. And it's like, no. I'm been alive long enough to see how this game works, and it was really just the old guard versus the new guard, the old money versus the new money.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll be I think it'll be I think next year will be really interesting. As in regards to what happens. I mean, they're already acting like Trump is president right now. You know what I mean? It's like I'm like fucking. I was like, he's not even in office yet, and you guys are going fucking losing your mind. Um, I don't think he's a savior. I don't think that at all. I did vote for him. Everybody listening, I know a lot of you probably are like, "Fuck you, guy," um, but I don't think he's a savior, and I don't think he's the greatest president. I don't think he's gonna be or ever be. Um, but I'm really interested. What I think one of the things that really sold me was that he said that he's gonna release the JFK files. I don't
I
know if
don't
he's
believe
actually gonna
that
do
at
that.
all. I don't believe that
Yeah,
even for a second.
I was like,
Again,
oh,
because
that'd be
the Bush
interesting.
dynasty is still alive and well and active, and as long as they're around, I don't think they'd ever let the real JFK files ever come out because it would basically just implicate the Bush dynasty.
Yeah, yeah. Um, man, I really wanted that to be true, to be honest with you. I didn't believe that it would be, but I wanted it to be. And
I
that
mean,
was
we'll
one of
see.
that was,
RFK is as close to political power as he's ever been in his life right
oh
now.
my God,
Um,
yes.
so I could
I
see
almost kind
him
of
trying to make it.
right. I'm almost kind of scared for him, to be honest with you, because whenever anybody in his family, since his what would be his grandfather, has gotten into politics, they've been assassinated. So, um, I'm a little scared for him, but at the same time, I'm really hopeful. I like him a lot. I think that's another reason why I went that way with the voting for Trump. So,
Right, but there's also
um,
something to be said about upholding American tradition, and one of our American tradition is just taking out a Kennedy every couple decades.
yeah, yeah. I hope not, but we'll see. we'll see. I can't stand listening to him talk, but I like him as a person. That's for sure. Um, as long as I think we're gonna hear a lot about this fucking bear head, or bear or something about a bear.
The whale head and the dead
The
bear and
whale,
the
yeah, the
brain
bear.
worm. Yeah.
Yeah, I bet you we're gonna hear a lot about that. I mean, we already got a whole week worth of shit talking because he had McDonald's on the plane with Trump.
I mean, it's better than eating a child's face like Hillary Clinton. So there's that.
That's true. That's true. And there's a video of that. There's a fucking video of that. Um, but anyways, man, I'm gonna have to have you come back on so we can discuss what I wanted to talk to you originally about. But I feel like it was a fantastic conversation regardless. It always bothers me about children, and for some reason I just felt compelled to bring the missing kids up, and then we just kind of like snowballed from there.
Did
But
you see the what the hell was that Tim Ballard movie? The Sound of Violence, or do you know what I'm talking about? It was the movie that had the guy from Passion of the Christ,
Jim
Jim
Caviezel, I have not seen
Caviezel.
it.
Okay.
No.
Because I mean that movie, I mean, in my opinion, that movie was kind of released for people that were concerned about this, so that they would see it and be like, oh, okay, someone took care of that problem, or someone's taking care of it. We don't have to worry about that anymore.
Yeah, no. I the thing I never went to see it. I wanted to, but at the same time, I had reservations just because I didn't want to see something like so. I have an issue with rape in movies, Like I don't know what it is. Well, I mean, I know what it is. Like it's gross. And so when it's like graphic, I get like sick to my stomach, you know what I mean? And I can't watch a fucking movie. I have to either fast forward through it or whatever. But like I don't mind it if it's suggested, but I've always been worried about what they would show was happening to these kids. You know what I mean?
I mean, I don't think that there was anything over the line in that, because it was very much a movie made by a Mormon that sort of appeals to a fairly wide demographic. It's a dark content matter, but I think
Yeah.
that it's a lot of cutting away and stuff for obvious reasons, because it would literally be illegal to show anything other than that. But yeah, this is one particular route that I remember I came across John DeCamp's book, The Franklin Cover Up, and I read that one when I was in like my early 20s, and I was not ready for it. Had no idea what I was getting. I thought it was just a book about like a bunch of politicians that were like Satan worshipers or something. They dressed up funny and maybe they killed animals, and I had no idea how dark that particular route would get. And then it took a while to come back around, because it gets referenced so often in all these other little ancillary, tangential conspiracy theories. But it came up again and again. There was a documentary called Conspiracy of Silence that came out. And then there was another book called The Franklin Scandal by Nick Bryant that sort of like revisited it. And at a certain point, after it kept coming back out, I was like, I just need to like reread these books again, take notes, see how much actually seems, like viable. But long way of saying, don't read any of those books. I would not read, if it makes you queasy. Yeah, avoid anything that has to do with Lawrence King and the Franklin scandal and the Conspiracy of Silence.
Oh man. Yeah. So so you think? Well, not that you think, but it would seem to you that that movie was put out so that anybody that would have any kind of concern about missing kids would be like, okay, somebody's doing something about it.
Yeah, like, it's like a cathartic release, like because a lot of people are only concerned because of things they see through their television. They see a bunch of news reports and or
Yeah.
on the internet. It's all coming through a screen, so it would make sense that you would resolve those feelings also through a screen, especially if it's this big cinematic release, one that you can buy and own and replay it. So every time you see another article about 800,000 kids went missing this year, you're like, I'm going to go and watch that Tim Ballard movie again. You put it on, and you watch it and you're like, all right, I'm good for another year. Like someone's taking care of it. It's just like this way to sort of have a proxy to like live through like this fake reality to make your mind and your body go through the motions as if it were resolved, as if there really was someone that went out and like fixed it all for you.
Yeah. Fucking sorcery, dude. Sorcery. They're fucking all the symbolism. They're making you think the way that they want you to think. That's what it is. I
Well,
can
so it
see
would be
it
the same
now.
way that like you get all like aggressive and pent up frustration because you're forced to go and like work in an office or a factory and you don't get to express like your natural like animal instincts to go and like hunt and destroy things and like bite their necks out and eat them and stuff. So you go and watch a boxing match at the sports pub, and that's how you like release that. You see someone else beating the hell out of somebody because it will be illegal for you to do it, but like you still have to
Yep.
go through those feelings to feed some weird like mammalian brain. And I think that this is just a very high level extension of that. It's like movies exist so that you can live out these things that you're no longer able to do in like our normal society, but it satisfies some like part of your brain that needs to go through that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I could see that for sure. 110%. Um, anyway, so my favorite question, my closing question that I love asking everybody is, are you finding fulfillment in your life with all the things you're doing currently?
I mean, I hope so. I think so. Because the projects and the things that I do, it's like a compulsion. It's not even a desire. It's like this thing has to exist, and the fact that it doesn't exist already, like even if someone else made it, like I would be totally fine if there was already another set of like conspiracy cards, for example, that had all of these people that I want in it, and MK Ultra doctors, and had the aesthetic that I was looking for. I would be happy that that just exists in the world. But when I want something like that to exist and I find that it doesn't, like I have to make sure that it does. Like I almost feel like I'm paying it forward to the next generations that at least someone cared about this enough to like pass the torch on. And like and a good example of this maybe is like the Bavarian Illuminati. This is like one of the projects I'm working on now is
Mhm.
illuminaticomic.com, and it's all about the Bavarian Illuminati. But this was a small group that came to power and then fizzled out after about 20 years in Bavaria in the 1770s, and it basically collapsed sometime in the 1790s. And if no one had ever talked about it afterwards, we wouldn't know about it today. And it's a fairly important thing to know about. And you can pinpoint maybe a small collect, like less than 10 people over the last 200 years that kept this concept alive and well, to kind of pass it on through the future generations so that we would have some like historical context and a way to research it. So I sort of see what I'm doing hopefully is kind of similar. Like that's the 2020 version of this. Like I'm not going to write a huge long manuscript. I'm going to make some funny like music videos and a comic book and some stickers and stuff. But again, I don't know of anyone that's making stickers that are based on these 1880s style like conspiracy theory people. So again, it's like a compulsion. Like I don't know if it's a fulfillment, but if I weren't doing this, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night. I would just constantly be like, why doesn't that exist yet? How can that like who do I do? Who do I contact to help make this thing exist? So yeah, I guess that counts as fulfillment, maybe.
Man, as long as you're happy, I feel like, as long as you're happy, I feel like there's some sort of kind of fulfillment. As long as we're creating, I think that's what I think the whole purpose of a lot of this propaganda and all these like symbolism bullshit. Like I feel like a lot of things that they are doing is to keep us from being creative. I think we were born, like we were made to create. And so as long as we're creating something, um I think that's what brings us peace personally and helps us is one of the stepping stones to helping us ascend spiritually.
I agree with
You know,
that. I also feel that humans can be easily conditioned into thinking that criticizing everything is a form of creating, and that's dangerous. And maybe there's
yes.
some people that are just naturally predisposed. Maybe there's some people that don't like creating. Maybe they like just tearing everything down around them. And maybe I just don't understand that mentality because it's not my own
Yeah.
personal experience. But it does seem as if it's trending towards that. Like there are people that make entire careers and live their entire lives and are born and they die, and all they really know about is criticizing and tearing things. It's critical theory, right? Just like trying
Yep.
to find flaws in every single thing around you, and that almost has become like a norm. I mean, I haven't gone to public school, thank God, in like 3 decades now, but it almost, or 2.5 decades, but it almost seems that if you send your kids to public school now, they're just getting lessons on how to like criticize everything that their parents do and everything that the government does and just everything around them. And it's not about building or creating anything. It's about tearing down existing power structures and authority figures, and that's a dangerous precedent because it also means that kids that might have preferred to be creators and they might find meaning in creating things don't even have that opportunity anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. Um, I was like, I was trying to help my daughter the other day with her math. My son ended up having to help her, because she's telling me this like way to that she's supposed to work it out, and I'm just like, just use the calculator. She's like, no, I have to show my work and I have to do it this certain way. And I was like, you're not going to do it that certain way as an adult, so I don't understand why you need to do it that certain way in school.
Because that's literally the state undermining your authority between you and your kids, is that they're going to school and you're being like, I know how to get the answer, but it's like, yeah, dad, but you don't know the right way to do it. And if I don't do it the way they want me to do it, then I don't get the points. Really, what she's telling you is that no, 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 the state has told me that your way is the wrong way and their way is the right way, and that's the real education. It's not about knowing how to do 5 times 5. It's about knowing how to go home and tell your parents, you're not as smart as my teacher is. Whatever my teacher says, that's the right thing. And the fact that you're saying something different means that you don't, like, your words have less power over me than they used to before I knew that everything you knew was wrong. Like it's a very insidious thing that happens very slowly. It starts with, no, dad, you can't carry the one anymore. That's not how we do it. And it turns into like, I hate you. You don't know anything about anything. It turns into it snowballs after a whole series of time.
Yes, I can see that as well. That makes even more sense to me now. Uh, man,
Like, hey,
man,
hey,
oh man,
dad, did you know
and then the
Christopher
fuck.
Columbus was a bad guy? And it's like, oh, I guess so now. Like that's the new narrative, right?
Yeah, yeah, and then the cursive thing. I think they're starting to bring it back, but there was a good portion of time where they weren't even teaching cursive at all, which is
I
pretty interesting.
definitely dying. There's no way
Mhm.
cursive writing is gonna stick around as normal curriculum. There's like kids are struggling to read at grade levels that are even like 4 removed from where they should be at. So it's
Mhm.
not like we've got all this extra time to like, and let's learn cursive now. Like I can't even, do basic arithmetic. Let's focus on that first.
Yeah, yeah. I honestly, I haven't used cursive since fucking
Why would
the
you? What
sixth
would
grade.
be the reason
So
anyone would actually use cursive today? It used to be because you wouldn't have to lift your pen off the paper as often, so that you could, in theory, write a lot
not
faster,
smudge.
right? And you
And
you wouldn't
yeah,
smudge it, but also you were supposed to be able to write way faster in cursive than you could in just regular letters, because how often you take the pen up and down, move it around. But now,
yeah.
if you wanted to do something fast, you freaking pull out your phone and you say, "Hey, transcribe this," and you start talking to it, and it just records the things that you say. So it's weird.
Yeah.
Like I don't even know why you would want to teach kids cursive, at least to write it, unless it was for like a very specific reason. There's so many other things that they could learn. The main thing would be to know how to read cursive. I absolutely think
Yeah, I
that
was just
should be
gonna say that.
required. Like writing it,
Yeah, I
fine, you know what I mean? And maybe just writing it and reading it are kind of one and the same. maybe so be it. Maybe it is, valuable, but there's no real practical use to do. It almost be like teaching your kids how to change, horseshoes or something. Like,
Mm-hmm.
go fix the family horse. It doesn't exist anymore.
Right. Right. Exactly. Exactly. I mean, I do think reading it might be important, especially for like old documents like the Constitution and
Yeah, but
the
why do they? I guarantee you, the school, unless you're in an American history class, but in that case, it's in the book. Like, they're not going to give you the
right.
cursive version of it.
Right. You're right. You're right. You're right. That makes sense. That makes sense. Ah, man. All right. So, if you don't mind, letting everybody know, all of the one listeners that I have, know who you are and where they can find you and everything that you're doing.
Yeah, my name's Paranoid American. I have a real name. It's Thomas. But you can call me Paranoid. And you can see everything that I've been working on for the last 15 years plus at paranoidamerican.com. It started with comic books. It evolved into animations and action figures and albums and
That's
all
dope.
sorts of cool like merch and stuff. But really, what I've been trying to do is take real research, things that I find incredibly important that most people would have to spend decades of reading horrific, sometimes horrifically boring, horrifically interesting, but really dense material, and then bring it in a completely new, approachable format, a comic book. And I find that this is one of the only ways that I've seen this type of information presented, so that it's not fear mongering, it's not trying to scare you into some sort of decision. Often comic books work because you can kind of be silly and over the top with it. So that's the approach that I've decided to go with, is sort of take some of the edge off, but convey the same important information in an entertaining way. So that sounds interesting to you. You can go to paranoidamerican.com. I try and set up a website for all my different big projects. So like illuminaticomic.com, titaniccomic.com, satanicpaniccomic.com. There's a whole bunch of them. They're all on that site, but just the names can kind of give you an idea of the topics that I find interesting.
Nice, man. Nice. I might have to check out your comics too. The artwork that I've seen on your Instagram has been amazing. I've seen the cards and everything. They look fantastic, and man, I hope you crush it. I wish you nothing but success in all of that. But it's been, awesome, getting to listen to you on a couple of my favorite people's podcasts. It's been, I think you were on, I think you were even on my buddy Tommy's podcast, Let's Get Freaky. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
Pretty
and
sure I
he's
heard you
been
on there.
on the Reality Czars with me a few times too.
Oh, okay. All right. Um, yeah, so I did. I'm not just like thinking that I heard. So I did hear you. So yeah, it's been a long time. I've been wanting to have you on for a long time. So I'm glad to be able to sit down and have this conversation with you. And time is our greatest currency, man. So I really appreciate you taking the time to do this with me. It means a lot.
Likewise, man. Thanks for taking the time to just chat with me. This was a fun conversation.
I agree. I agree. We'll have to have another one, sir, and I'll look forward to that one. But for everybody listening, um, please like, follow, share, subscribe, do all that stuff. If your catcher doesn't allow you to leave a review, you can leave one on the website where the Weird Ones Are podcast. That's also where you can get the merch, the hot sauce, and the coffee. But until next time, you guys know the drill. Question everything and stay weird.
This concludes our broadcast day. Click.
Because in the end, none of us have very long on this earth. Life is fleeting. And if you're ever distressed, cast your eyes to the summer sky, when the stars are strung across the velvety night, and when a shooting star streaks through the blackness, turning night into day, make a wish.